Welcome back, Commander. I've made you a nice cup of tea. XCOM 2. XCOM 2 is almost out and I've played it for a lot. I've played it a lot. I've played it for about 20 hours, maybe more. And it's very, very good. So how about I tell you about why XCOM 2 is very, very good and why it's different to the original game, but without really talking about any of the things that are major spoilers or anything. That sounds good, doesn't it? That sounds good. Let's do that. Come on. XCOM 2 sees you fighting against the alien man, but it's not just a vibe that's wholly prescribed by cutscenes. There's a real change in tone to XCOM 2, and the tone of the tactical game is quite different, despite looking very similar. And when I say tactical, I mean the bit of the game where you've got the little men running around shooting each other. The original XCOM had a bit of a problem in the fact that every mission had this kind of initial trudge of move forward, hide behind high cover, move forward, juggling units forward, and it was fun, but at the same time it was repetitive. It was the same every time. You were just waiting for something to happen. XCOM 2 is very different. You have missions that are kicked off with this stealthy section where you can move in a much more free and fluid manner. You don't have to constantly be behind high cover because you're not really using cover to defend against shots. You're using cover to defend against line of sight. The original XCOM found you playing in a way which was strangely linear, strangely horizontal, gradual high cover hopping game of almost relay. They tried to fix that a bit with Enemy Within as well, with the DLC and the fact that they kind of said, look, you've got to get over there and get those orange things, lighting a fire up your bum by saying, look, if you don't go over there quickly, then you're not going to get any robots or any dinner. And that kind of worked, but in this it's less that you're under duress. In XCOM 2, it isn't somebody saying, look, hurry up, da, 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 da. It's somebody allowing you the bonuses of behaving in a slightly reckless way. If you run around and send that guy on his own, then yes, that's dangerous. But if you can get a shotgun behind their back, then you're laughing. But the upshot of this over longer amounts of play is that the game just feels a lot faster. You know, you don't have that kind of slow ratcheting build-up at the start of every mission of just careful position, with nothing bloody happening. In XCOM 2, you can just run around and be like, yeah, that'll do. And then when the fight starts, or when the fight is about to start, then you can take the time to really get those positionings perfect. But as I say, it does have a very different tone because of that. The original XCOM, at times I found it a little bit scary. If you're just gradually pushing forward, not knowing where the enemy might be and waiting for them to appear. Whereas in this, you're just a lot more fast and loose, get out there, find them, pin them down, attack them. It's really different, and that's great, because I've played loads of XCOM, and XCOM 2, I was just wanting more of the same, but actually, it appears to be more of the same, but it's not, it's quite different. And the funny thing about this new concealment system, which is a fancy term for sort of stealth, is that sometimes you don't even want to start a fight at all. I mean, there are some missions in the game where you say have to go and extract a VIP, but this time you don't really have to fight your way through. If you're careful, you can sneak, break them out, and then when the alarm kicks off and all the aliens are coming after you, you can just leg it, because you're not hanging around to collect the bodies. It's not like in the old game where you fly in, do the mission, and at the end of it, take everything back. In this, you don't get to take the aliens back, because you're just running. So what's the point in killing them? Well, maybe there isn't a point. Maybe you should just run. It creates this dynamic whereby you have missions that you have to approach in different ways. You have some missions where you're there to get materials, and if you don't carefully aim around these crates, or if you get these crates hit with explosions, you get less materials. Whereas some missions, you just think, sod it, I'm bringing in the guy who's got all of the grenades, because. But these extraction missions where you have to just dash in, grab something and get out again actually create an entirely different feel, an entirely different challenge. In the original XCOM, it was just about being careful, just taking the time, getting the kills, not getting anyone killed. This time, sometimes your biggest worry is not that somebody's going to get killed, it's that somebody's not going to get to the extraction point in time. When you've only got 4 turns left and you've got a lot of ground to cover to get to where the evac point is, you start to worry you're just not going to make it. It forces you to make plays which are a bit looser, a bit sloppier, leaving people out of good cover, because otherwise they're not coming home. The fantastic thing about all of this really is that The tension flow in a mission of the original XCOM game used to be that the beginning would be very tense. You don't know what's out there. You don't know what you're facing. Then you get a measure for it. And then you might have a hairy moment where it gets tense again. But generally, when you're mopping up, it became less intense. Whereas in XCOM 2, the flow of tension often feels like a complete 180 reverse of that. It starts off, you're not really worried. You're scoping out, you're finding out what the enemies are. Oh, we got some of them. Oh, we got some of them. Cool. But then as it goes on, you start to go, I'm running out of time. I've got to get out of here. To the untrained eye, you're not going to see a huge difference. But to anyone who's played the original XCOM a lot, XCOM 2 is a game which uses similar systems to create something that's aesthetically not that different from the original game, and yet vastly different to play, just because of lots of different, very small changes. But that's not to say that it's all a case of XCOM 2 making things different. In some regards, it just takes simple ideas and makes them much better. It might seem dull, but the way they've changed how armor works, I actually find really exciting, because what they've done is by having this system by where you've got health and then your armor, which knocks off the damage every time it gets taken and shows you the working, goes, that was your armor just stopped you from taking damage. Actually creates a mechanic whereby getting hurt and taking damage actually becomes kind of fun, which is fantastic. And lots of stuff in the kind of strategic layer, which we'll come back to in a little bit, has been refined as well. Like the way that armor works now is if you want some specialist armor, something with a rocket launcher insert, something with a grappling hook, there's something for the lady, then that's going to cost you. You have to buy them one at a time. But if you just want better armor, you research it, and then all of the people can just have better armor. It means you don't have to be like juggling around suits and being like, who's wearing the bloody... Have you seen Susan? I think she's got my flak jacket. And making armor more readily available means that rookies just stand a much better chance of actually surviving. And survivability in XCOM 2 isn't as tough in some ways. You don't get killed. You do get killed. You don't get killed in quite the same way. In the original XCOM, you'd often find yourself just getting wiped out by an enemy getting a really lucky shot and just being like, you'd be like, what the hell? Oh my god. In this, that doesn't happen as often. By scaling up the amount of health that each of the characters have, it means that you don't get one-shotted as much, you get chipped away at, and it creates a system whereby people will still die, but they'll die through more attrition or repeated mistakes rather than just one tiny misstep. That's not to say it can't happen, but it's kind of a different flow of death. Mostly down to the fact that you're fighting more enemies. So it's not just one enemy getting a lucky shot, it's 3 enemies getting shots after flanking you. And this all comes back to what I was talking about earlier, the fact that in the original game, the kind of tactical progression was quite linear, whereas now it's a bit more dynamic and you can move around a lot more. It means by encouraging it to move you around a lot more and having enemies that can physically move you around against your will means that you have to get out of your comfort zone. You can't just gradually progress hiding behind walls. You have to get out there, you have to get your hands dirty. And if you get flanked once, you're in trouble. That soldier's probably going to be out of action for like maybe a month or something. But if you get flanked twice, then maybe you're dead. It creates a system whereby you're still dying a lot, but unlike in the first XCOM, where because you were often just hanging back and sniping from far away, it had to give the enemy the opportunity to get lucky themselves and take you out. In this, you feel more often that when your people get killed, it was your fault. You messed up there. And that element, I think, is really crucial because you are encouraged to kind of experiment with riskier play, this concealment system, being able to effectively get behind and do pincer movements and stuff. It allows the game to then kill you in ways which feel more fair, ways which feel your fault. So moving away from the tactical side and onto the kind of bigger picture, the strategy side of things, the overall game of XCOM, the reason it was so good was because it was just an incredibly elegant piece of design. It was a piece of design that, as I say, quite clearly came from board games in a way and paper prototyping. They boiled everything down to be as simple as it needed to be. And that's something that actually way too many video games don't do, and way more video games should do. And if you're a video game designer that isn't familiar with board games, then go to shutupandsitdown.com right bloody now and start investigating them, because it'll make your games better. Anyway, XCOM 2 has the kind of slight problem of the fact that it is still very elegant and it is still very simple, but it also adds lots of new things. You know, the world and your ship and your base, which is basically completely revamped and redesigned. So it has to make things simpler again, but then it also does add a little bit of fluff creeping in. Gets away with it, but it is a bit of a kind of, is this a bit fluffy? But having said that, on a strategic layer, the original game wasn't really that great, and they have simplified tons of things. For example, the whole base building system in XCOM 2, it looks the same, but it's not the same at all. It's completely different, and for those of you familiar with board games, it's kind of like a single player worker placement game of you having, this time, just 2 or 3 engineers and being like, okay, well, this engineer can go here and do that, and then this one can go here and do that, but if I put that one there, then it gives me a bonus 2 engineers which can go there and there. It's a very simple little elegant puzzle. You've actually got to choose what you want them to do, which means you're constantly making small, meaningful choices rather than just hedging your bets with a kind of percentage split across a bunch of things. And by giving these people actual names, it means that when you're going on a mission to save a VIP dignitary, it's not just some faceless Burke in a suit, it's your next engineer. It's like Sergey or something. He's gonna be the guy that when you get him back, he's gonna make you cool grenades. I did talk about cool grenades, I didn't talk about cool grenades. In terms of cool grenades, XCOM 2 learns a lot from the Long War, which was a fantastic mod for the original game, which gave you lots more tactical options. You've got loads of special grenades and special ammo types that you can equip on your soldiers to kind of make them a little bit more niche, a little bit more interesting. But crucially, and God, this is crucial, you don't unlock these through traditional research. You don't have your scientists spending a week working out how to do special ammo because you won't. There'll always be something better to do. There'll be an objective you've got to do or just laser weapons or something. Like, you know, you're not going to do it. You're going to do the more important thing. And that's something that the original XCOM had a big problem with. You had all of these options, but some were just tangibly better. And so you just went for those. So what they've done is they've got this new system whereby you collect these kind of Elerium cores, which are just loot you find occasionally during missions. And you can spend those to make a new type of grenade or a new type of ammo or a slightly better type of something you've already got. It creates this secondary kind of currency that allows you to keep getting new tactical options without disrupting your main path of research. It means you're actually going to use this stuff. And the awesome thing about these ammo types and grenade types is it's a lucky dip. There's a bunch of different ammo types, there's a bunch of different grenades. They're all roughly as good as each other in terms of variety. And you just get them in a different order every time you play, which means every time you play XCOM 2, every time you start a new game, the type of ammo you get first might completely define how you build a squad. It's a lot more variety here for replay, which is great. The other type of variety is loot, which are these little kind of pockets of stuff which occasionally appear when you kill an enemy. And that means you can run over and get something, and they're like weapon additions. Plug something on your weapon and give it like a 10% chance to instantly kill enemies. That sounds good. It is good. It is good. But this stuff does introduce one strange duality of XCOM 2. That's something I'm not really worried about, but I am interested in to see once how it pans out in the kind of the full campaign. Is that they seem to have doubled down on this story-driven cutscene stuff of having character-driven story, and actually I like it. It's good. But obviously you're not going to care about that once you've finished the game once. On the other hand though, they have added all this stuff which makes replay value really valuable. So it's seeing how these two balance out in the full picture once I've kind of got my hands on everything is going to be interesting. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, satellites. Satellites. In the first game, satellites was kind of what you did. It was build satellites, win the game. On a tactical layer, right, on the fighting bit, the game was like a mad box of dice being stirred up with knives. But then actually, when you zoomed out and looked at the bigger picture on the strategic layer, you flipped the box over and it was just a bit of cardboard that said build satellites. And they tried to fix that in Enemy Within by stabbing you with knives while you were trying to build satellites, but really it was the satellite game. XCOM 2 fixes that quite substantially by just adding lots of new factors and lots of new angles that appears to, and I can't say this for sure because you need to finish the whole game a couple of times, I know, but it appears to be less about finding that ideal path and more about embracing whatever you need to do now. You don't know where the alien bases are going to appear in XCOM 2, and your kind of radio coverage, which is similar to satellites, affects that in a way. You know, kind of like you can't just get loads of radio signals out straight away, because you might find that then you've got to go to India and you haven't covered India yet, and that's a big problem. It means you can't be proactively trying to rush through that element of the game. You need to wait, and you need to plan, and you need to react. And also, while it's never as harsh as the kind of random number generator hell which the tactical side of the game puts you through, there is a little spicy spoonful of RNG being kind of blocked into the water of the strategic game. And that's good. It leaves things feeling dynamic without ever really allowing you to feel done over. And it does that by giving you a heads up when things are going to happen. It's like, yeah, you're going to have a difficult mission in about 3 weeks. Yeah, in about 4 weeks, the aliens are going to do something really bad. You don't really know what, but it's, you know, just be ready for that. It means that when you kind of are punched in the face by misfortune, you do see it coming, sort of. You've got this new system called Dark Events, which basically means like, things are happening. And it weirdly seems to have come, or at least maybe been inspired by the XCOM board game, the Crisis deck, of just being like, well, here's 3 bad things that are going to happen next month. And you can go on a mission to stop one of those things from happening. But which one you choose, it's up to you. Lol. But there are good things that can happen to you as well. And actually, one of the things I think which exemplify how much the game has changed in a really clear way is hacking. Hacking basically allows you to like open doors or crates and do things during missions. But while doing it, you can increase the risk and increase the chance of failure. But by doing so, maybe get a bonus thing. And these bonuses are often things which actually affect the strategic layer of the game. But if it goes wrong, then you've just made things a lot harder for yourself here. And that's really nice. That's a kind of connection which was missing in the original game. It always felt a little bit like the 2 halves of XCOM were halves, whereas now they've kind of allowed elements to bounce between the 2, making it feel like one cohesive system. Also, a massive shout out to the hacking successometer, which has the exact same random number generating system as firing a shot, but rather than just being like, nope, or yep, it has a little bar that goes whoop, and you can see exactly how lucky or unlucky you are. It's a great way of using the exact same system, but in a way that feels actually different and fun. But in terms of hacking and a lot of this other new stuff on the strategic layer, this is where it kind of risks being a little bit obtuse. When you're not building your little base buildings and moving engineers around, you're flying around the world to different locations to maybe get new recruits or get more intel or get more resources. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. And actually, it's kind of uncharacteristically risking being a bit obtuse and a bit more complex than the rest of the game. It's not bad once you get your head around it, and I get why they've done that, because they needed to make the strategic layer of the game as deep and interesting in some ways as the tactical one, but it's not quite as sharp as it could have been. At the same time, it is way more compelling than it used to be. You actually get excited now whilst you're on the world map. You know, you'll have just lost 3 rookies in a horrible terror. Oh God, what were those things? But then there'll be a new thing being like, we just heard there's a bunch of rookies over in East Asia who want rescuing. You're like, yes, I'm doing that. And you do have to make these choices. Do you want to go and get this? Do you want to go and get this? Maybe that'll go, you don't know. It's really compelling. And I mean, the whole game is bloody... I played this a lot. And in one day I played it for 15 hours and I couldn't stop. The last time a game grabbed me like this, the last time a game just took my attention and said, this is mine, it was XCOM. So, yeah, XCOM 2. Fuck. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about character customization. In the original game, I gave most of my soldiers stupid names. We had Kit Kat Chunky, Charlie Pancakes, Nigel Farage. Admittedly not as funny since UKIP got so weirdly popular. But that was fine because they were just these fun little caricatures. You did fall in love with them, you did grow attached to them, but you kind of grew attached to the name and their skills, really. They became important to you. You did feel affectionate about them. But anyway, in XCOM 2, I feel very differently about the characters. There's a much wider spread of customization, and when you get these troops, they don't look identikit. I mean, some of them do. Some of them look like Duplo people still, but a lot of them you kind of feel like, oh, you're a person. Oh, you've got a handlebar moustache. Oh, you've got like cool glasses and you're a skinhead Swedish lady. That's awesome. And it means I don't want to give them stupid names. They feel like characters already. And I love them. And yeah, I love these people. I've somehow ended up with a squad of people who are effectively like alternate reality versions of Sarah Connor. I've got like the crazy French lady with a rocket launcher. I've got the Swedish skinhead. She's incredible. I've got this, like, by complete chance, this squad of mainly absolutely badass women. And fucking hell, they're great. And they've actually implemented into the game's design something which I just did in the first game just as a kind of habit. I didn't really allow soldiers to have that much customization, that much kind of like flavor until they'd survived for a bit. It was like, nah, you're just nobody until you've proven yourself. Now you're allowed like colored armor and stuff. In this, they've made it so that you do unlock customization once they get to a certain level. You know, it's like once you've proven that you're a tough cookie, then you can have a big tattoo, all right? Deal. And some of this transformation, some of this visual transformation of your troops is done by choice. You'd be like, yeah, you've earned a bloody cool tiger skin camo gun. Nice work. A lot of the time, though, it isn't chosen. I mean, you can remove it afterwards, but I love the fact that when your soldiers get really beaten up in battle, they get scars on their faces. And it's awesome seeing this baby-faced group of rookies turning up and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill some aliens. And then just seeing like them all like covered in scars and looking worn. It's fantastic. You get this real sense of characters. And it means you have the people who've been into battle and taken a hit are looking rough, whereas you've got that lucky bastard who's never been shot who's still there going, oh, isn't war fun? It does allow you to start building characters in your mind in a much bigger way than in the original game. And brilliantly, this isn't just cosmetic. You have characters that if they've come close to death or been badly wounded, that character will be shaken. And it means they're not quite themselves, their willpower's a bit diminished, not quite sure. But then you take them into a mission and you get them to get some kills or something and they don't get hurt badly and they're not shaken anymore. In fact, they're better. Their will has been restored and improved. And it means that the babyface character who's never been in trouble is never gonna be quite as tough and quite as hard as the guys who faced death right in the eyes and asked him for a biscuit. And this new kind of slightly grittier, slightly more human tone runs right the way through the game. It feels like Firaxis, after paying homage to the original game in the first XCOM, are now just making it slightly their own. And that's great, because it does just feel less pantomime. There's something more sinister about the aliens this time. The fact that you've got these weird alien-human hybrids and this fantastic sci-fi sharp-angled designs everywhere. It's different. And I mean, you combine this new, slightly darker tone with a new strategic layer that just feels strange. And finally, you're actually back to fighting against an enemy that feels unknown. It's a joke. It's a joke for the dads. I'll get my coat. Thank you very much for watching. And all I can say is, yeah, XCOM 2. I've played it for about 20 hours and it's really good. I have no qualms at all. I think it's safe to say that this is going to be a bloody good game. February can't come soon enough. Thanks for watching. Bye! And now it's the bit where I say thank you for watching again, because that's how videos work. I don't really understand the internet, but hey, if you've really enjoyed this video, go to coolghost.net and you can talk about it over there. And if you've really enjoyed it, then you might consider funding Cool Ghosts by going to patreon.com/coolghosts. Thank you again. Bye.